Hello and welcome to The Stack. This week we talk about the return of Love magazine. We speak with their new publishers. Plus, we head to Norway to chat with the creative director of the country's leading business magazine. And we welcome back Alex Brown from Advanture. Enjoy the show. From Midori House in London, this is The Stack, 30 minutes of print industry analysis, and I am Fernando Augusto Pacheco. We start the show with the welcome return of Love magazine, the magazine that was founded by Katie Grand. The title was bought from Condé Nast by Juan Costa and Nordine Benotmane, who are now acting as creative director and executive director, respectively. It remains a beautiful publication with plenty of great fashion, but a different perspective too. It was great speaking with both Juan and Nordine about what they want to achieve with this new iteration of Love magazine. Juan Costa and Nordine Benotmane, welcome to Monocle Radio to talk about Love. I mean, it's a magazine that we all loved in the past and it's kind of back. My first question, perhaps, I think both of you can answer this one, but Juan, maybe if you would like to start. Is it true that it all started kind of 5 years ago when you guys had a call with Anna Wintour? That's what you wrote in your editor's letter. I wonder if you can tell us a bit more about it from the beginnings.
So 5 years ago, Nordine and I had started our agency Convoy way over 5 years ago, like 12 years ago. And, we always worked in the space of fashion. We never really quite started as creative directors. We started our agency developing websites, doing brand strategy, and operating in a space that was more in the space of innovation, I would say. And then slowly but surely, we started getting into the space of image making and creative direction and art direction and so on. And it was 5 years ago that, yes, we did get a call by Anna Wintour. Condé Nast was looking for a global creative director, and we were referenced by a friend of ours to interview for the job, and we got that job, and for 3 years we were global creative directors at Vogue, which it was an incredible experience that in a way it just like pushed us into the world of editorial and into the world of image making, in which I think before we were timidly working on that space. And once we got that job, we were putting together like 1,000 shoots a day or something like that, because we were operating globally, and those 3 years were an incredible learning experience. And the thing that it also did for us, it just, we got bitten by the editorial bug, like you probably know about this, making magazines is very, very painful, but it's a very high level of satisfaction as well. So it's almost like a drug, like working on editorial. And there was a moment that, we stopped doing Vogue for a bunch of reasons. We still work with Anna in other projects like Vogue World. So it was when we left Vogue that we saw that the Love title was under Condé Nast, and it had been dormant for a couple of years. And, we, all of us grew up looking at Love. It was an incredible title and so defining of a moment, in pop culture, I would say. And we were always very attracted to that. And Anna helped us acquire the title from Condé. So that's what we did. And we are relaunching it completely in an independent way. So that's more or less the journey to it. And obviously, needless to say, is that, yes, we are acquiring a title that has carved its place in pop culture in the past, but it's a different kind of love with us because we are not the previous editor. And I think that our ambition with the magazine is to start looking a little bit more at global culture. This is something that for us is super important. Working in fashion, we sometimes feel that, the conversations that you hear between the brands, the stylists, the photographers, the designers, and all of the actors in this industry, more often than not, feels a little bit redundant. It feels a little, sometimes it feels like they're talking to each other and they're not really talking to an audience. And creating those closed circuits, what it does is it just exhausts any type of creativity, really. It doesn't create a space for other creative ideas to kind of emerge, you know? And so a lot of our ethos is what other stories exist outside the pearly gates of fashion, and what are things that are maybe a little bit foreign to this world that we can introduce. But also in doing that, we're also obviously working with the same old pop elements that we still love as well.
And Nordine, this is what I was going to mention as well. So it does feel different actually reading Love. As a, I used to really enjoy the previous iteration of Love, but I think you guys did your own imprint. You've added your own DNA, and I agree with what Juan said. Is it feels more global, and may I say even a bit more political as well. How would you tell me the differences, Nordine, comparing to the previous Love, and perhaps some similarities as well?
I think as Juan said it, I think it was like Katie Grant previously. She created like it was like a strong pop magazine that I think marked a certain time, like I think 2000, 2010, and it was an amazing magazine. But I think as Juan and I, we are not like stylists, we approach, I think, the editorial world from a different angle. Juan previously was working in cinema, I was working in music. Juan comes from Argentina. I'm from France, originally from North Africa. So I think through as well, like our previous experience, and I think through as well what we want to tell in terms of story and the story that I think we are trying to convey into the magazine are stories as well that are coming from our previous experience, from where we are, and what it means as well to be someone for having like maybe a different culture, living in different cities, or a mix of different cultures, and how we can express that within, the magazine. And I think it becomes something that is maybe a bit more hybrid in terms of journalism, and in terms of even in the way we approach fashion and all those elements. I think and Juan and I, we are as well different, but I think we complement ourselves as well in what we do, and both of us bring different flavor to the magazine. But yeah, I would say that the biggest difference is that I think before the editor in chief was like a stylist, and Juan and I, we are coming from maybe a different creative world. Yeah.
Well, and even the fashion shoots, I mean, they have something to say, because I know the magazine, this issue at least, is themed around freedom. It is a political topic. And of course, there's incredible articles and a very poignant kind of poem at the end of the magazine as well. So it's quite interesting that you wanted to keep that element even when we're doing a fashion shoot.
Yeah. Going back to what I previously said, I think that our main motivation of doing Love, it really comes out of observing an industry that maybe sometimes, not always, feel a little bit stale. I feel like the world of editorial has been a little bit overtaken by the white backdrops and the model carrying credits by brands. And obviously, this is a generalization because we're not the only ones doing this, but there is like a lack of storytelling. I think that there is a little bit of a lack of finding that common space between fashion and culture, which to us, that is the most exciting part, because we like fashion. But the side of fashion that we love is the side that exists in the real world, like we like clothes in people walking down the streets, and less people on these non-fashion spaces. So a lot of what we're trying to do with the magazine is think about the fashion shoots, but before we even start putting together the teams, we start, okay, but what is the story? And like, who is the right person to tell this story? Which is sometimes, obviously, it's a really more difficult path to booking shoots to do it this way. But we love this idea of having fashion stories that react to some sort of cultural observation. We have in the issue one story that I love is one that we did with our fashion director, Tati Cotliar, and Camille Summers Valley. We shot Abby Champion, and we did this fashion story inspired by what we were seeing of all of these celebrities going into their trials, Gwyneth going to the trial, like A$AP Rocky, and how they dress to go to the courtroom, and like how they kind of pretend to be innocent or not, and so on. And we found that to be such like an interesting fashion idea that that's where the idea from that shoot started. So we always also look back a lot at Franca's Vogue Italia, and it had so much of that element. And I think that to me that was such like the prime of fashion editorial, really. So in a way, we're stealing a little bit from that.
That's okay.
So
Inspiration.
it'll be fine. Someone will steal from us in the future, and we're gonna be okay with it. And also, you picked up on the political aspect of the magazine, and this is a conversation that Nordine and I had before doing the magazine. We had so many conversations around this, which I feel like we both feel that there is an urgency from a space of editorial, to talk about things that exist in the world, to take a stand about certain things that exist in the world, but somehow in the fashion system, it's something extremely tricky to do. Not only from an ethical perspective of like, how do you sell a bag for $5,000 and then turn the page and you're talking about a serious topic in some region of the world that, there's an urgency there. And it feels so paradoxical. It feels such like a contradiction. But I also, our conclusion with Nordine is like, honestly, this world that we're stepping into now with AI coming into the equation and so on, like I think that we're gonna be living in a pool of paradox for the next couple of decades for sure. So let's lean on it and just accept it as it is, and let's have these two kind of random things coexisting under the same umbrella.
I agree. And Nordine, I was going to ask you as well. It's so interesting that people were doubting about magazines 5-10 years ago, but it's clearly not the case. I see a young generation caring about titles, and they are proud. They want to buy the print. Do you also notice that? And I was wondering, what's the plan for Love? I mean, continues to be a biannual, but you also guys going to have some online content. So tell us about that division and the appreciation for print as well.
I don't think print is dead. I think it has a different role now within culture. And I think people appreciate when they have like a magazine that says something or that represent like a certain community or have like a very strong point of view, which could be in fashion or in any other like topic. I think it's important to have print, and I think it's important to read. I think today with the digital as well, people are overwhelmed by content. And I think sometimes we just see things in a very superficial way, in a way that is as well like very strongly emotional and where we react, but without depth. And I think the role of magazine as well is to go maybe a bit more into depth and to tell more stories and to go a little bit more in depth. But I think as well, the magazine for us as well is just an excuse as well to do a lot more things. I think we see Love as more as like a media brand, than just a print magazine. And I think our goal is to create moment and to be part of the culture and to try to create strong moment, which could be like from a print, but then even the print we want in the near future, when we launch like a biannual, we want to make it like more of a like a real life experience and having like a digital experience and maybe potentially do a product with it or an object. But I think we see it more like it's a starting point. So then we can like maybe expand the experience of the print magazine into something else. But then as well, like outside of the print, I think our ambition with Juan is to create a lot of event and to have like a role maybe in culture and not just to speak about culture, but as well be part of it through a community around the world and friends and experts in different fields and collaborate with them. It's a platform, I think, for us and for the people around us to create beautiful projects in culture and to say things.
That's fantastic. Are you looking already ahead for next year, Nordine? I mean, when is the issue 2 coming up? I mean, I don't know if you guys know already a fixed date for that, but...
Yeah, we're working on it. I think the next issue will be coming in March for Paris Fashion Week. Of course, we'll launch it a little bit before on digital. We're looking forward to it and we're working on it now, currently, as we speak.
Oh, I already look forward to see the covers because I forgot to say, Juan, for example, I love the covers. I mean, the photo shoot with Benny Safdie is so cool. I mean, I don't know, I'm fascinated by his face. I think he looks super cool. And Nadia as well. Great choice for covers, I have to say.
Thank you, thank you. Doing covers is really difficult, you know. I feel like you want to hit like a balance between the things that you love and the things that you think your audience loves. So there's always a fine line there.
Thank you, Juan and Nordine, and the new Love is out now in the best newsstands globally. For more, go to lovemagazine.net. And now a pleasure to welcome back to our studio Alex Brown, editor of Advanture. I am glad he stopped by a Midori house in the middle of one of his adventures in his van. Adventure is for all those van lifers, those who have an interesting story about the road trips, no matter where it is. Here is Alex with more. Alex Brown, welcome back to the Stack, and now in person, which is always better, right?
Thank you very much. Yes, we are here in England promoting the magazine for the very first time, despite being English. I've never been here to promote the mag.
And what a great story, the magazine as well, right? So, as I said, we spoke a few years ago, but there's been enormous growth. I mean, what issue are you in? Is it issue 14 that is out now?
14 is out. That was published in the summer, and we're working on stories right now for issue 15, yeah.
So tell us a bit more about the concept of the magazine. You know, it is a magazine about adventure. It's about the community, the people that drive their vans as well. There's actually quite a loyal community, I think. So you really found the market when you launched Advanture, right?
We did. It's strange. We launched February 2020. It was a digital magazine. And the idea...
What a time, right, to launch.
I know. I think a lot of things happened there for a lot of people. Yeah. We launched it initially as a digital. And the idea is that you always have your smartphone or your tablet with you when you go camping. But after a year of lockdowns, and I was completely over being on my phone and my tablet. We tested the market with a print and it just went off really well. So we did start digital and then went print, and we don't do any digital anymore. So I think it's the other way around to what some other people do. And there is a strong community. In the UK, there's a massive campervan network, mainly from old Volkswagen style shows. There's different weekend festivals, but I mean, it's nothing unique to the UK. I mean, people using campervans for adventures, all around the world, and that's what we focus on.
You are traveling, you're an adventurer, so you are on the road quite a lot. So how challenging is it to actually make a magazine while you're doing all those things? And of course, you are in the middle of one of those journeys, right?
I am 4 weeks into a 3-month road trip now. Oh. We are finally publishing the first issue entirely from the road. I'm not going to lie, it's very difficult. I have my young family with me. We've got a cat in the motorhome as well. But hey, it beats sitting at home, basically. Dreaming about adventures, we're actually out on it, writing one. But it's not easy to find the time. You do have to be quite disciplined. But we're out there actually, living the adventure right now and meeting people. And, it's a different form of stories that are going to come out on this one. It's less mountain adventures or some far out trail that somebody would go off and find. It's about meeting people, actually, this next one.
Because an adventure can be gentle, right, as well. It doesn't need to be kind of a crazy, radical 100%, experience, right?
100%. I mean, I grew up on the south coast of England, but I left it very early on. At 17, I was picked up as a professional kiteboarder, and I flew out to the States, travelled all around America in this huge tour bus. Thinking back on it, I'm 37 now. It feels like a dream. Like that was a little boy in a big world out there. But you don't have to go halfway around the world to find an adventure. As I said, I grew up in the south coast, and I've just been to the New Forest for the first time. And I had no idea it was there, despite it being under 1 hour from where I grew up. And it's beautiful forests and country homes and walking trails and wild rivers with trout in them. I had no idea. So that goes to show you don't have to travel too far.
After living here in the UK for many, many years as well, I don't know if people outside the UK imagine this, but I think the UK is an adventurous country. I mean, people love hiking, they love nature, like more than in many countries, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Cornwall is known for surfing. You go up north, you've got climbing. Wales, you've got amazing hiking. Scotland, wild rivers, mountains. It's all here. I wish I had maybe travelled around a little bit more in the UK when I was younger.
Because you're based in Catalonia, right?
I live in Catalonia, Spain, exactly.
Where in Catalonia?
In the Pyrenees, right on the border of France and Spain, so we can walk across the border actually and go and get nice croissants for breakfast, just by Andorra, so between the three countries. But yeah, England's fantastic. Yeah, I've just not seen any of it really, so that's what we're here to do now anyway on this trip.
What are your biggest markets in Advanture? Because I know the magazine has gone global in many ways, but I'm curious.
So we do, obviously, I sit down in Spain, where I like to be, to make the magazine, but we do print and distribute out of the UK. The biggest market is here in the UK. That's where kind of our base readers are.
What about somewhere like the US?
The US, we did try to get into at the beginning a few years ago. I think we just tried to bite off more than we could chew, for sure. We did get into Barnes and Nobles, but it's a completely different market. I mean, the people are different. They're doing the same sports and, you know, they're out in their vans, but I think the stories and the way they talk is different. We're definitely a European-based magazine, so not just the UK. We are in Europe, trickling in. Some of the sponsors we work with are also expanding into Europe now, and it feels very natural to go between UK and Europe, I think. So that's where we're focusing on now. But yeah, USA, it's a lovely place for road trips, 100%.
Exactly. And you did mention that, of course, you are all about print these days. And I mean, you do have a website, right? You can buy actually a copy of the magazine in there, right? So how does it work? I mean, I've seen in a lot of newsstands here in the UK, your magazine, but do you also have a subscription base? So how are you dividing that?
We are, yeah. We're in like boutique stores. But yeah, really, if you'd like to pick up a subscription, you do need to hop onto our website, www.advanturemagazine.com.
I love the name. I mean, the name is super clever.
I'm glad people say that it's funny. I wasn't too sure on it at the beginning. It was my wife actually come up with a name, and yeah, I was like, I like it. I see what you're doing with it. But yeah, we rolled with it. I'm glad we did. But yeah, website for the subscriptions. But yeah, you can pick it up. A number of shops. Yeah, have a Google.
Give us a little taste. I know that the upcoming issue will be quite different, and, you know, as you said, it's going to be about community, about meeting people. But the current one that people can buy, give us a little taste of some of the stories they can find in there.
Oh, God, I can't remember the exact stories, but we did, the cover is so nice. I shot it myself. Actually, it was my first cover of my own, so I'm really happy about this. Shot it on medium format film. We do a lot of film photography. We're, quite big advocates for that. I had my daughter, she's 4, her and my wife were dangling their legs out of the side of an old VW bus in the middle of a cornfield in the mountains with their Blundstone, rough boots on. It was just a really nice, timeless shot that when I look at the cover now, it really does wrap up the rest of the magazine. It's really easygoing. As you said, it's not big adventures all the time. The magazine homes down on more niche things that people find. But we'd been doing a lot of repairs and DIY on this bus. We own this bus, and it was nice because we got it to a point where it's actually drivable. Being an old Volkswagen, they do spend a lot of time in the garage. So we just got it out on the road. It's rolling. We're out there in one evening and we just shot this magic photograph. And I think that encapsulates that issue. So it's DIY and film photography and, yeah, just good times.
And I'm surprised. So you go with your cat as well on those adventures. How is it? That must be extra hard. That's an extra.
It's the first time we've taken a pet with us.
What's the name of your cat? If you may
Sasa. She is my daughter. She's 4. She named her. She's a farm rescue cat from the Pyrenees. So she's out on this wild adventure going across Europe right now in a motorhome. It is a big upgrade from the type of vans that we are used to. We're used to your small Volkswagen van, the typical thing, but we've got a big 7.5 metre motorhome and we feel like we're touring around on a tour bus now. It's beautiful. It's from a sponsor that we're working with, but the cat, she loves it. She finds a warm spot on a seat or in a window, and yeah, she's taken to it quite well, but she's only young, so I think we started at the right time.
After the UK, of course, you're here to promote the magazine. Where next? I mean, are you on your final steps of the journey?
No,
just the beginning?
Just a few weeks in, actually. So we picked the motorhome up in southern Germany from Sunlight Motorhomes. We toured up through the Black Forest, which was top of my list. I've not seen
beautiful place.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yes.
That's the type of thing we're really into. Hit it at the right time. Autumn. It was fantastic. So colourful, rich colours. Oh, it's brilliant. We come up through the Black Forest of Germany towards Belgium, pass through Belgium, come across on the Dover-Calais ferry, and then, over to my parents for a week and got into the New Forest, as I said, for the first time. And now we're slowly working our way north towards the Peak District. Never seen it and I can't wait. But then we're back into Europe towards the end of the month for another 6 weeks on the road, I think it is.
While writing the new issue as well.
While writing the new issue, yeah, exactly.
Which is completely doable, right?
It has to be.
And finally, just out of curiosity, because, I'm seeing this trend on the stack as well. A lot of magazines about mountains. I think the outdoor market is really booming. I think clearly people, I don't know, they're feeling a connection. They're not necessarily adventurers, I would say. I think it's almost a form of escapism, right? In a way, just to read those amazing stories.
Yeah, I think, COVID was a big boost for people. I think they realised that, getting outdoor isn't, so difficult. You don't have to go and climb a mountain, or you don't have to be an expert mountain biker or a skier, It could just be walking in a new place or pitching a tent for the first time. But yeah, there has been a boom in the outdoors world. I'm familiar with a few of the magazines that have come up. I really want to find New Mountain magazine. I've not seen that one yet. I think you guys may have had a chat.
Yeah.
Sidetrack's a wonderful magazine. There's just a small bunch of magazines in this indie world, which I think are so nice to rub shoulders with those people. But yeah, for people getting into the outdoors, it's not hard, and you don't have to go for a huge adventure. As you've already said, it's just a nice way to reset, calm down, and maybe get off your device.
Thank you, Alex. For more information, go to adventuremagazine.com. We head to Norway now. Kapital is Norway's leading business magazine. It's a hefty, large-format title and weekly as well. It was a pleasure to speak with the magazine's creative director, Claudia Sandor. Claudia Sandor, creative director for Kapital magazine from Norway. A pleasure to have you here on the stack. I've seen your magazine. I think it looks great, a cool format. Please introduce Kapital for us.
Kapital is Norway's leading business magazine, first and foremost. It's a magazine that focuses on business and on commerce and also on economic crime. It comes out 4 times a month, so every week. And previously, it had every other week a special edition focused on different topics like lifestyle or artificial intelligence and technology or even travel. But we're incorporating more of the every other week content into every week to make it more of a capital issue every week instead of specials every other week. This is to harness more of our readers for the every week reading.
Well, that's fantastic. And what is interesting is that it's a weekly magazine, a weekly business title. So, there's a lot of work put to it, because I was looking at it. There's, a lot of pages, there's always so much content. It's not just a little flimsy magazine in a way, right?
No, it's incredible. And the output of the journalists in this magazine is quite astonishing. I come from a background from many other magazines, and the amount of work that they publish every week is a lot. And as you say, the format is quite large, and every page is quite full with content also. It's not lots of white space. It's quite packed. So you can imagine the amount of work put into it from the journalistic perspective. I, of course, come from the more visual side of storytelling, and we have to fill our pages with visual content also, which I think is great fun. I come from a more avant-garde background. I'm not a trained designer. I went to university and studied art history. I have a degree which is just below a doctorate in art history. When I started to work as a designer, I was very much into the avant-garde side of it. We did a lot of experimental typography, and I worked with magazines more like in the lifestyle section. And after many, many years of doing art magazines and things like that, I transitioned into more toned down aesthetics, but harnessing still that kind of creative, artistic view. I like my readers to be able to read my typography also. So at the very, very high end of our experimentation, we had to write the title of our magazines beside the typography. But I like the challenge that Kapital poses me because, of course, it has a lifestyle section, but it's basically a lot of financial information. We have different sections. One of our sections is called Investor, and that is lots of numbers and following investments and things. And I think that gives a really interesting challenge. And one of the things that I find most fun these days is making infographics. And I think that is a very interesting sphere to explore.
And I can see this because one of the issues that you sent to us, I think is perhaps one of the most iconic of the capitals, which is the list of the 400 richest people in Norway as well. So that gives plenty of space to do infographics and kind of to use some of your abilities with your creative direction, right?
Yeah, for this issue, Norway's 400 richest, this is an issue that we make every year. It's a yearly issue, and it is massive. The starting number to be in this list, it has grown very much the past years, obviously, with this economy. The starting point, I'm saying this in Norwegian crowns, 1.25 billion crowns. And I think you have to take one digit off for the British pounds. And for this issue this year, we did a kind of snakes and ladders in Kapital's spirit. But instead of snakes and ladders, we used imagery from computer graphics. We used a very graphic bar graph, I think it's called in English, and experimenting with the color palette. Kapital's brand color is orange. So I developed, and our team developed a color palette based on the orange, but also touching on from orange to very deep brown burgundy, which is very beautiful. And also using typography that kind of reminisces bank typography from older buildings and bourses. What are bourses? A good term for that in English would be the stock. What's it called?
The stocks, yeah. The stocks, exchanges.
Yeah, the stock exchange, exactly.
And I was going to ask you as well, I think Norway is a good country to be when you're doing a business magazine, because although it's a small country, it has an incredible economic output as well. I think it has kind of an oversized influence compared to its size, don't you think?
Well, the thing with Norway is that it's not a big country, but you can be a big fish in a little pond. And there is so much going on in Norway these days regarding entrepreneurship and things like that. So it's really fun to see what's going on from a business perspective.
And I was going to ask, I know you are a magazine lover. How is the print scene in Norway in general? I mean, are Norwegians still buying print quite a lot in the newsstand or subscriptions? I mean, you can tell me from your perspective at Kapital, but also perhaps with other titles in the country.
That's a very interesting question, and this has been debated a lot the past years. I remember when I was working in D2 several years ago. This is Norway's leading lifestyle magazine, which is issued by our colleague and competitor, Dagens Næringsliv. It's a wonderful lifestyle magazine. And when I was working there in the beginning, 2018, we were presented with the possibility of having a paperless future and how we would work with that. So suddenly, instead of only working on paper, we were doing digital stories and working more with Instagram and things like that. And also there was a development with other newspapers in the country. Our leading newspaper, instead of issuing paper every day, they would cut down on issues during the week. But it's especially the weekend reading that people really love, and newspaper supplements, I think, have benefited a lot from that. And also making a product that people really want to have for their weekend reading, and something that you can keep out. You just don't throw it out the next day. Maybe you keep it for a week, or maybe you keep it for a month and can bring out. You didn't read that article, you can take it out again and read it later. Their expiration date isn't necessarily tomorrow.
What day of the week does Kapital comes out on the newsstand?
It comes out every Friday.
Kind of a weekend reading in a way, if you think about it.
Absolutely.
Kapital has a long history in Norway. I was just wondering, now we're approaching the end of the year. Are you already thinking about next year? Are you thinking, will there be any changes in the title? Or how do you see Kapital evolving in the next months? Not only editorially, but even the way it looks as well.
Well, yeah, that's also an interesting question. We face issues about efficiency and making things less labor intensive. So I'm currently developing our templates and honing in on the color palette and making the magazine. For example, we have lots of different sections and you don't really see the difference very well from section to section. So I'm kind of focusing on that visually. So that's also a lovely challenge to get that to really work and for the readers to see immediately what kind of content they're reading on that specific page.
But the big format's staying, right?
The big format is staying.
Good. I like
Absolutely.
it.
We really love the format. and it fits well in the newspaper since it's delivered together with the newspaper now. It wasn't before, but it's had that format for a while. Lots of space to be creative and experiment with negative space, which I love.
And Claudia, I need to ask as well, because I know, as I said, you are, of course, a print lover. What magazines do you like reading? I mean, what do you read when you're resting, when you're kind of relaxing, not working?
Yes, I am a magazine lover, and I love all sorts of titles. I tend, of course, towards lifestyle magazines. I was just listening to your podcast on Le Monde, their new international edition, which I purchased when I was in London just a month ago. So that was fun. I'm looking forward to reading more of that. I also love to, let me see, which titles do I have here? I've got, of course, Detu, which I talked about earlier, and also some fashion magazines. I'm very interested in the visual aspect of fashion. And
that's the best way to find out, just looking around you. What's around me? That's exactly what I like, right?
There are heaps and heaps of magazines here, so I need to clean up a little bit.
Thank you very much, Claudia. You can find it on Instagram as capital.no, capital with a K. Or you can buy a copy in the newsstand when you are in Norway. And that's it for this week's show. My thanks as ever to our editor, Christy O'Grady. If you have any comments or queries, feel free to write to me, Fernando, at fp@monocle.com. And remember, we're back next Saturday at 10 a.m. London time. Meanwhile, you can always listen again at monocle.com or subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You've been listening to The Stack. I'm Fernando Augusto Pacheco. Until next time, it's goodbye from me.